Now, there's another psychological concept that plays a massive role in influencer culture. And it's something most people don't even realize is happening while they're scrolling, and that's called a parasocial relationship. And if you spend time on fitness social media or follow anybody for an extended period of time online, really, there's a good chance you've developed one. And just what the fuck is that? So a parasocial relationship is a one-sided emotional connection between an audience member and a public figure. The key part of that being that it is one-sided. The viewer feels like they know the influencer, but the influencer has no idea who the fuck the viewer is. This concept originally came from television. People used to develop these connections with news anchors, radio hosts, celebrities. Think about it. You watch a show every week, you're essentially inviting this person into your home through your TV, and you begin to feel like you know the person. This can be positive, but it can be negative too. Think of Jack Gleason. He played King Joffrey in Game of Thrones, one of the most vile, horrible characters on the show. People hated that fucking character, so much so that they began to harass the fucking actor. Death threats, everything. The cognitive dissonance you have to hate an actor for a character they played is staggering. But obviously not everybody has that extreme a parasocial relationship with a person. But social media has definitely intensified this phenomenon dramatically because influencers don't just appear on a screen anymore. They're sharing their daily routines in your hand, what they eat, what their workouts are, what they're struggling with day to day, their personal stories. So the viewer begins to feel like they actually know this person. They become invested. And that feeling of familiarity builds trust, which can be fairly toxic. Now, in some ways, parasocial relationships can be positive. When someone follows a fitness creator who shares their journey, it can really be motivating. It can feel supportive. It can make people feel less alone in their own journeys. But it can also create a dangerous dynamic because trust tends to get transferred automatically. And if someone likes an influencer's personality, they may just assume that this person's advice is also correct, even if the influencer has no real coaching experience or deep learned knowledge on the subject. One of the biggest challenges with influencer culture is that likability and expertise are completely different traits, yet somehow they seem interchangeable. Someone can be charismatic, funny, and relatable, and entertaining, and still give terrible fucking advice. But because the audience feels emotionally connected to them, their advice gets accepted without question. And that's the power of a parasocial relationship. Another thing that happens is people start to treat influencers like mentors. They feel like they're learning directly from this person. But the influencer isn't coaching them. They're just broadcasting content to thousands of millions of people at once. Real coaching needs to be individualized, one-on-one. It requires feedback, adjustment, and understanding that specific individual. Influencer content can inspire you, and it can spark the flame for your own personal fitness journey, but it cannot replace personalized, targeted guidance. Then there's comparison culture. One of the most powerful forces in social media fitness isn't actually the advice itself, it's comparison. And comparison can be incredibly motivating, or it can be incredibly damaging. Social media is built around highlight reels. It's the bread and butter of the fucking algorithm. People post their best angles, using their best lighting, during their best days, wearing their best fits, at their best physiques, but beginners see that content and assume that represents everyday reality. What they don't see is the bad workouts in between, the years of training, the injuries and the setbacks, or the off-season body or days where motivation is low. They don't see the lows or the ebbs and flows. They just see the highlight reel, the best of the best. Another issue on top of this is timeline distortion. Someone might post a transformation photo that says 1 year progress, but what you're seeing might actually represent several years of training. Not to mention professional lighting, peak conditioning, and possibly performance enhancement. Beginners then internalize this unrealistic timeline, and they begin to think that they should look dramatically different in 12 weeks, when in reality, meaningful physique changes often takes years. And this constant comparison can lead to something psychologists call upward comparison. That's when we compare ourselves to someone who appears more successful or more attractive. And when that happens repeatedly, over time, it can lead to discouragement, body dysmorphia, loss of motivation, unrealistic expectations. Ironically, something that was meant to inspire people can actually push them away from fitness. Because what normally seemed like a healthy goal now begins to feel unattainable because it's not taking the same time that they said it would. And people just give up. one of the healthiest mental shifts beginners can make is to stop comparing themselves to influencers and start comparing themselves to the only person that matters, their past selves. I always tell new clients when they start comparing themselves to other people, because it happens. They always do. I always say the only person you should ever compare yourself to is who you were yesterday. Ask questions like, am I stronger than I was 3 months ago? Am I moving better? Do I have more energy? Is my consistency improving? Those are the real metrics of progress, not your progress compared to what an influencer says he did. Not looking at the numbers on the dumbbells of the guy on the bench next to you, but looking at the numbers on the dumbbells you lifted when you started out. The most successful physiques are built through years of boring consistency. It's that simple, but it's that boring. And that's why it doesn't catch on the algorithm. Most successful physiques are built through years of boring consistency. Not viral workouts, not secret supplements, and not trendy diets and programs, despite what fitness influencers are posting online. Just keep showing up, training every day, training progressively, eating well, sleeping enough, and repeat. When you see shredded influencer bodies online, try to reframe your thinking. Instead of saying things like, why don't I look like that? Try saying, that's what long-term consistency can build. Because it's not a race. Fitness is a long-term project. It's a marathon. It is a lifestyle. And when beginners begin to understand that, they become much harder to mislead by flashy influencer content. Because then they start to realize that real progress is slow and steady and built on the fundamentals. Now, we've talked about psychology, the Dunning-Kruger effect, parasocial relationships, comparison culture. There's a lot to this shit, like I said at the beginning. But there's also another huge factor shaping influencer fitness content online, and it's probably the biggest one, and that is economics. Because once money enters the system, the incentives change dramatically. All bets are off. Social media runs on what economists call the attention economy. I mentioned it earlier. Attention is the new currency of the world. The more views you get, the more opportunities you have to monetize. That means the platforms reward content that keeps people watching, sharing, and commenting. But there's a problem with that, because the algorithm doesn't reward accuracy. It just rewards engagement. And engagement often comes from things like controversy, or wild extreme claims, shocking statements, and dramatic transformations. Quick fix shit. Stuff that doesn't work. The more dramatic the claim, the more likely people are to click, even if it's bullshit. The truth is, real fitness advice is actually pretty fucking boring. If a coach is being honest, most of their advice looks something like this. Train consistently, progressively increase the weight, eat enough protein, and sleep a lot. Repeat for several years. Done. That's not exciting content. That doesn't go viral. Nobody is sharing a video titled Lift Weights Consistency for 5 years and you'll probably look better. But if an influencer says this one exercise will grow your glutes 300% faster, now people are clicking. Once influencers realize what gets views, that incentive structure becomes clear. Content that's simple, dramatic, and controversial will almost always perform better than content that is nuanced, cautious, complex, and realistic. So naturally, creators start optimizing for engagement. Sometimes that means exaggerating claims. Sometimes that means presenting controversial opinions as irrefutable truths. Sometimes it means inventing new exercises altogether or new theories just to stand out. Because in the attention economy, novelty wins. Then you've got another economic factor in this whole thing: sponsorship. Fitness influencers often earn money, and lots of it, from sponsors. Supplement companies, coaching programs, apparel brands, affiliate links. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with making money in the industry you care about. I'm trying to do the same fucking thing and make a living at this. But it does create potential bias. If someone's income depends on selling a supplement stack and they need it to pay rent, they may be motivated to present that stack as more important than it really is, that it does more than it actually can. Beginners might see these promotions and assume they're essential for the body that they want, when in reality, supplements are usually the smallest fucking piece of the puzzle. So when you look at influencer content, it's helpful to remember that most influencers are not just educators, but they're also entrepreneurs. They are running a business, and businesses optimize for growth. Growth requires views, which requires attention, and attention often requires bold claims. Once you understand that, you can view fitness content a little more critically. Now, this doesn't mean all influencers are bad. It just means the system they operate in has incentives that sometimes push content towards extremes. And the healthiest mindset for viewers is to treat social media fitness like entertainment mixed with education. Just enjoy it and maybe learn from it. But don't assume every viral tip represents the most effective approach to any situation.